What up? What up? What up? Another episode of the Shark Cove coming at you. It's a Thursday, so you know we're not wearing any sleeves, and it's a day that we can all rejoice and be excited. Not only did our heroes RA prove us wrong and win a series, but our real heroes, our heroes Chocolat in the mid lane, our hero Inax with a fantastic penta to steal game three and essentially put them right back on track to win the series. Our heroes from Gameward dismantling Carmine Corp and eliminating them from contention for EU Masters. It was a big day. I had quite a few parlays, quite a few straight bets, all on that series. I decided not to hedge, and it was looking pretty grim after game two. Game three didn't start the way that we wanted. They were significantly far behind. A couple thousand, lost a couple dragons, but a pentakill and a couple team fights later, the Sivir had taken over. Gameward was back in front, and they never looked back from there. Game four was also a big dub, and what's not to like about that? However, the number two seed in Proving Grounds did not hold serve. They did not do what they needed to do. I decided to hold off and not bet much because I haven't paid a ton of attention to these amateur teams. I knew who they were playing was kind of good because I don't know, for some reason I just always see Moose Hater and Captain Shrimps playing games. They're always on during Shark Cove. And they were able to win 2-1. Not so much a problem right now for the number one seed Team Liquid Academy. They are winning looks like 27-7 in game one. They were a little bit bigger favorites. But, hey, look, we're not here to talk Academy. We're not here to talk LFL. We're here to talk the betting lines and the DFS implications of today's, or I guess we should say tomorrow's slate. Now, I did say, and there was a lot of things I was wrong about yesterday, but I did say in parting around the 37 mark, if you want to go back and look, that T1 was my bold call, 4-stack T1. And that was quite the call there. That was fantastic. Shout out to Mav for taking down the $5. I came just short in a couple of these contests. An LNG win may have propelled me where I needed to be. But nevertheless, it worked out. It's okay. We look and we fight for a new day. So first game on the docket, first game on the slate, what we're talking about is DRX versus Nongshim. Now, look, this is one of those contests that it's just, it's hard to go ahead and put any money on Nongshim. It's hard to say that you're backing this team. Like they have looked much like RA had looked for much of the last part of the summer split, and that's like a team that's defeated, a team that's quit, a team that's swapping in supports randomly, it seems like, and just doesn't have it together. But you look up and down the roster and you just think, man, this team has too much talent to be this bad. But you say that every single week, and every single week it happens. That being said, plus 260, I don't know. I'm kind of intrigued by that, but DRX for its faults have been good. Let's take a look at the history these two teams have so far this season. While this is not 100% updated, I think I'm missing a couple of games. I didn't go ahead and update this before the show. We could take a look at DRX. The last time they played Nongshim was way back in week one, and if you'll remember, this is when we still thought Nongshim could be good. Some of us, at least. This was a series that Nongshim had no business losing, and DRX had no business winning. This was back when Kale was in the meta, and just DRX had drafted super late game scaling, and Nongshim just kind of let him go there, let him get to the late game. And that was the first game was the one that I think Kale took over, if I recall correctly. I remember exactly where I was as this all fell apart. I was one of the very few Nongshim backers because, look, DRX came in to this split with all this hype. Chovy had talked him up, had said this team was invincible in scrims, and, people bought into that. It just never fails to happen. And what we saw was not that, but, the first game was kind of promising. And Nongshim just fell apart from there. And on the other hand, DRX looked fantastic for the beginning part of the split. But as it went on and they faced stiffer competition, they kind of became who we thought they were, a middle-of-the-pack team that was going to compete for someone maybe in that 4th, 5th, 6th spot. They'll probably make playoffs and contend for Worlds. Now, KT and Sandbox have both stepped up and I think are in a position where they're a little bit better than DRX. So DRX really needs this win right here. And what better team to go up against than quite possibly one of the worst teams in the league right now, Nongshim, who have given up a ton of kills at times in series, not back-to-back games. But when you look at a team like DRX, they're not necessarily a team that's going to give you 2 back-to-back games where they're going to give a ton of kills. I think if you're playing this game, and I do think I favor the DRX side, what I surmise you should probably do is, just bet on Nongshim or pass. Neither of these teams really, scream overs. The range of outcomes is pretty large. You see a lot of these games totals in the teens. You see a fair amount in the middle 20s, and then just a couple of those outliers up into the 30s. When we look at what we have here for kill totals, nothing kind of crazy. We do have that plus 800 action at 32 if you wanted to go there. And I do, look, for all it's worth, I don't think Nongshim's a very good team, but I do think that part of what they do, look, I don't think they're that much different than DRX, but they're just missing something, an ability to close. And sometimes that is what separates a good team from a bad team. I guess what I'm trying to get at is I think that the talent that's on these two teams, regardless of how they're playing, is pretty similar. And being that it's kind of similar or pretty similar, we could get some really close games. Now in the LCK, that there's certainly a large range of outcomes in that. We've seen a lot of these games that with two teams of similar talent go, under 15 or under 16 or under 18, like 10-8, 9-3. But we've seen some of them absolutely pop off, and you're always going to have lower ownership as a result. This game feels like one that's going to be under-owned and underappreciated. But, look, that being said, I don't think I'm really making any bets here on this series here. So let's move over to the LGD top esports. Look, this is about as heavy as it gets. Minus 2,000 favorites, plus 1,000 LGD. They almost came out and shocked the world the last time they played. It seemed like it was only yesterday, and it was pretty close to it. This team has not played a lot of games. I think they'd only just played their 12th game, and other teams are on their 14th or 15th. I'm not interested in the spread. I'm not interested in the money line. I certainly am not going to bet the minus 1.5 at minus 425. I think the only thing that you can kind of look at for top is, do you want to play the kill spreads? 10.5 is a huge kill spread. And when you look at the way the top wins, does that make sense? They're right over here. 20-11, 16-3, 23-9. And I know that this one is not updated, but I think you get the gist here. They've had a couple of these games where they're going to cover that, even earlier in the split and against inferior teams. But it's not a given. And I don't think I want to take that. However, let's take a quick look at how LGD loses. LGD loses and they lose big. They didn't against TT. But I think that, I wouldn't hate you. It's just not a spot that I'm in love with. If we can get some action on these kill totals in the high 20s, that might be a place. But, when it comes right down to it, I guess, I don't know. Maybe I'm just a little bit more conservative than I was earlier in the split. I'm not taking as much action on these. I'm not primed. I'm not ready. The LFL, the Super League, the Prime League, I was putting in 10, 15 bets a day. And I was ready, by the time we got to this show to talk about and just make some wagers. But right now, not so much. And these games don't do it for me. Now, this one has a little bit more of a little bit of more flair, a little more pizzazz. We've got BLG coming in as dogs. Now, I have no idea who has the side selection on this, so let's take a look. I think it is BLG, and that is, in fact, the case. BLG has been a good blue side team. I know that we've talked about the impact of the blue side versus the red side not having as much weight as it did maybe 2-3 weeks ago. And that's okay. But it's hard to deny that these two teams were some of the largest culprits in creating the division between the two sides. OMG has been a team that shows up when you least expect them, and right when you buy in, they break your heart. BLG, on the other hand, has just broken your heart, even though you're bought in the entire season. But with the return of Weiwei, the return of Doggo, this team looks a lot better. They certainly weren't the problem. Can and Rise. Can was all right. Rise was not very good. The problem with BLG is still the kind of the consistency within the lineup, or maybe they've settled on Icon being the guy and they're not going to play Fofo. For everything that we know, Fofo is a pretty toxic fellow. And I'm sure, the chemistry within this team is probably pretty toxic with all of the rotations and everything that's happened. So, when you have a team that's underperformed like that and does need this for playoffs, it's hard to bet them, but I think I am. I kind of like BLG here. I like them to win the series. I think I'm going to have them on the first map. I'm going to bet that one and a money line. The other thing that I think is kind of an attractive place to go is some of these kind of overs, the over 35, some of these higher kill totals. I'm probably going to take a couple stabs at laddering these up. When we go and take a look at both of these teams and what they've done throughout the season, what their range of outcomes are, OMG has gotten there as of recently, not so much, but they've played three teams that make that a little bit more difficult. First, they beat Victory 5, and I think if you're going to beat Victory 5 and you can beat them cleanly, you don't toy with it, you don't play with it, you get the lead, you get the advantage, and then you just try and build off of that and end the game before they find a way to beat you. For all the hype that surrounds the sneakiness of Betty, anyone's legend is not playing like anyone's legend of years past or of their Rogue Warriors heritage, haven't been the highest kill total team. And when they played OMG, that was certainly the case. We know that Weibo is that up and down. And it's been a while since OMG have really played some teams that would scrap it up with them. I think BLG is one of those teams. I think I'm going to take a couple overs here. Let's take a quick look at BLG because I do know that they are updated. Probably scrolled past it. You know what? I think this is actually. Yeah, I think I have this kind of updated wrong. So I don't think these are supposed. I don't know. But look. Okay, no, this is correct. We do see that they go into the high 20s, and they've done that quite frequently. I mean, JDG takes teams there. They did it with RA, though. They did it with Weibo, and most recently, they've done it with Victory 5. For what it's worth, as Weiwei and Doggo have come back, this team have picked up their combined kills. Yes, they have 2 wins, and yes, they have 2 losses, but 17, 20, 11, and 13. And quite frankly, if your team is getting 11 and 13 kills in a loss, that bodes well for overs. It just really does, at least in the LPL. We don't see a lot of these like 12, 13, 20 total games where, one team is only 1 or 2 kills. The spread isn't different. Usually the team that wins kind of separates at some point and starts to tack on another 5, 6, 7 kills. So I'm happy taking the overs here. I'm taking BLG, and I'm taking them in game 1. Next up on the docket, let's talk about Damwon and Gen G. Damwon, big time dogs here. Man, I love Gen G in this spot. I think Gen G have been playing out of this world. I think most of the metrics that indicate team performance would tell you that Gen G is even playing better than that 2020 Damwon team that was record-setting in a lot of ways. So with that being said, it's hard to bet against them, but this is still a Damwon team that can win in ways that I think other teams cannot. I just don't know if they're going to be able to do it against a Gen G team that showed us earlier in the split that they were just as happy playing that macro-oriented style, not necessarily forcing fights, and being able to get advantages around the map. And when they do have the items and they are online, they're going to find you, they're going to pick fights, and they're going to win. So I think you could take a stab at Damwon on the spread. I think you could take a stab at Damwon to win. Or if you just think that Gen G is that dominant, you bet them to sweep. And I think that's where I'm going. I'm betting Damwon doesn't win one of these games. I'm betting that this Damwon looks like the team that we saw play Sandbox. And a lot of that has to do with the health of Showmaker, the health of Kellen, and the impact that this game really has on them. Yes, I think they've lost some ground because of the recent performance. Let me take a look here. DRX, DRX wins today against Nongshim. Damwon loses. Damwon is then in fourth place, but I don't know if that actually. Oh, wait, I'm looking at something wrong. I was looking at the overview of something else. Well, no, they could lose. Look, they're in the playoffs. That's all that matters. They're not going to get top two. That's all that matters. I don't think that they come out and have their best performance. Does that mean that this is going to be a sloppy game? I don't know, man. I've bet that before. I bet that with T1 and Gen G, and that didn't work out. But I bet it with Gen G and DRX, and it did work out. I bet it with T1 last night, and it did work out. So, it's half a dozen of one, 6 of the other. I'm betting Gen G -1.5 to sweep this series. Look, this is a night sneaky. It's a Damwon spot. I don't know about that spell. That's not from a betting perspective, not for me. I'm betting Gen G. I think that when you take a look at what they've done this season and just the sheer dominance that they've had, one of the 3 games that they've dropped was to Damwon, but that was probably 12-1, maybe, or 12-1-0, or I'm sorry, 12-10 or 12-11. Just a little bit of a different meta as we've seen teams kind of figure out these patches, loosen up in the durability. We've seen kill totals go up, and Gen G has been one of those teams, just like the rest of them, that have picked up that pace. So I don't know, man. I guess you just clarified it, said it's DFS only. I think I can get behind that. Let's hop into DFS and get off of the betting. Let's talk. Well, man, was looking at a couple things, got a little ahead of myself, doing some pre-work show prep. Just drinking the water these days. It's sober Chris on the Shark Cove, at least during the week. So where are we going to go in cash? The 2 biggest favorites, Top Esports and Gen G. When we look at these 2 teams, we get the ever popular, the infamous Mark Captain lineup. Look, and you can do some different things. I don't have a problem with going Gen G here, and then you can upgrade Ruler and you can go to Jackie Love, or you can say, hey, I like Ruler here. I want to go get Wayward. There's a couple different 4-3s that you can do with these 2 teams. The only reason I believe that it's popping as heavily for the team slot with Top Esports is because I just have the Top Esports team spot projected a little bit higher. I don't necessarily think that's right or wrong. If you go with Gen G and DRX, and this is a lineup that I think is pretty sexy when it comes to GPPs, is you get a Zeka captain with Chovy and Ruler and Barrel. Yeah, this is going to be duped at least 10 times. So, go for it. But some of those smaller entry tournaments, the 3 max, the 10 max, the 333, I guess I would be, at least in this part of the process, a little bit surprised if you saw this lineup. People don't like going double LCK. Top Esports commands a ton of attention. I think a lot of people are going to gravitate towards that BLG OMG game too, just because it does feel like that there's going to be a lot of kills. Now, people have fallen in love with Gen G. It appears, Ruler specifically. Chovy's had a good game or two, so maybe they go there. Maybe they don't. I don't know. But I don't think that you're going to see them together as often, especially in those smaller tournaments. Toxic Fellow was the name of my punk band in high school. Nice. I was not in a punk band, but my rap name was Pure Ecstasy, and that's like XTC. So that, one of many. I don't know if I've rapped on the show. I might have when I was intoxicated, but maybe somebody can tell me. Spell, you've watched most of the shows. If I've rapped when I was intoxicated and I don't recall, maybe it was in spring, maybe it's this. Let me know if you guys haven't seen it. Maybe I'll drop a couple bars. Maybe I'll drop some rhymes for you, get you kind of motivated to build some good lineups. But what else can we do here? So we saw the Gen G, we saw the DRX. What does DRX look like with top esports? Okay, it's still a Mark Captain. That's nothing to be excited about. We've got OMG over here, and you can top captain. People love playing the top captain. And Shanji is a dude that fucks. So I feel like this is going to be something you're going to see a fair amount of. We saw top captains last night win, most of the tournaments. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this. But from a GPP perspective, I think you go over somewhere like this, and I mean, yeah, you can get an icon captain, you can get a knight captain. I would guess. I don't know why it didn't pop a knight captain here. Let's say knight, and then let's optimize it. Let's see what we got. And it just wants to jam in this top esports team slot. I don't know. Maybe you go something like this. No, I think you have to go Mark. That's just for the brand, right? Oh, you can't do that. Interesting. So if you go bin here, can you go crisp? You can. That's too many BLG. That's a little crazy. We're getting a little wild there. I think we do want to go Mark here. Okay, but you can't go there. That's interesting. All right. Wayward has not been fucking. Drop bars over the intro music. Well, look, man. So here's the problem. The reason I didn't make it is I don't have a ton of rhythm. I have a hard time following a beat. So I can do it. Like I can do it without it. But I can't always do it over the beat. So look, it's just a lack of rhythm. Tried to play the drums. That didn't work. Should have been the first clue that I couldn't do it. But I did write some good stuff. Like, here, I'll go. So I can cut your ass in half so fast, like with a piece of glass that your past won't have time to flash in front of your eyes. I tell no lies. My ways project, ways to sack people in a split sec like an insect. Check the fine text because you're my next. Impervious to slander, a real Michigander, taking so much ecstasy. I love everyone I see. I'm a man, so I stand by my beliefs. I put my money where my mouth is, so I bought some gold teeth. So, look, that was a little sample. That was a little sample of what could have been. Let's get back to it here. So when I'm looking at these four games, I think the most attention is going to be on these four teams right here, specifically Top Esports and the BLG OMG series. I don't know how much attention is going to go towards Gen G, specifically the ancillary parts of the team. Ruler's been commanding a fair amount of ownership in most of these tournaments. We've seen him at like 30 and 40%. And the big thing that you're looking at here is he's relatively affordable, especially when you compare it to like Jackie Love at 8,000. From the mid lane position, I think you do talk about Zeka a little bit, but people are gonna find a way to play Top Esports. Top is playing LGD. It doesn't matter how expensive they are. We saw it last night. EDG, super expensive. People still found a way to 4-stack EDG. Wasn't the worst scenario, just given the way that slate played out, but I don't feel that this slate looks a lot like yesterday's slate. I think that there's, these two games that could really pop off in OMG, BLG. I think that's going to have a ton of attention. People are going to go to OMG. It just feels like they're the flavor of the month right now, or at least the OMG tastes good flavor of the month. Sometimes they taste good. Sometimes they taste bad. You think that people are going to be on them, and they're not. But I think that they will be in this situation. So, backing a Nongshim or backing a DRX with your lineup feels pretty good to me, or even something like a BLG lineup. So when we're talking BLG, the two guys that I want to get in my lineup are Weiwei and Doggo. Obviously, there's a tremendous amount of risk with playing Icon. And, with that risk comes a bunch of leverage. But, if you wanted to, let's say, Weiwei a captain, who are you captaining Weiwei with? And I don't know. Like, I don't want to do it with Peosic. I'm not doing it with Peanut. Are you doing like a Weiwei captain in big GPPs? I mean, I probably will. What does it look like here? So if we go with a captain, let's go Captain Weiwei. Let's go Bin, because why not? I mean, you could do some weird shit like this, right? You could do something like that's gross. I don't like that at all. I'd rather do something like this. Go grab a Doggo, grab Crisp. I mean, is there anybody that we feel worse for than Crisp? Like, he's been, I guess, Bin, because he wasn't even here in spring. But man, Crisp has been part of this through thick and thin. I personally like this lineup quite a bit here. Weiwei is a dude that has shown that he fucks, and far be it from me to stop him from fucking all over Aki and Cream and Abel. So that's where I'm at. That's my thoughts on this. We're going to get into the LEC at this point. We're going to talk some info here with Mr. Josh. He was popped in, but he's not in yet. He's got to go get a tank top. Okay, so cool. I guess final thoughts on LPL LCK. Top Esports comes in around 40% ownership, and this is based off of the 333. So go ahead and adjust this down. They're going to come in super high owned. I think Gen G and OMG are going to have pretty similar ownership, maybe in the 20s. Ruler probably approaching closer to the 30. The teams that are going to be completely forgotten are Nongshim and Damwon. So you're going to have some tremendous leverage with playing them. But DRX is another team that I think you play. Maybe you play them with like a BLG or a Gen G because they fit really well. And actually, when you think about carries, I think that they even fit well with OMG on the standpoint that you can play Zach, Cream, Abel. That lineup feels pretty good. And then maybe you just go over here and you one-off Mark or something like that. And you do something that looks like that. Maybe you do something over here. What kind of team slot can we get? Man, I mean, when we're talking a disgusting lineup, wow. That's the type of shit that wins you the $15 these days, not that bland 4-3. Look, hey, we've got Josh joining the stream despite the fact that there's football on. Josh, thank you for joining. Are you rich?
We'll see. If I got points for my guys blocking, I'd be in a good spot. But
I meant from the LFL earlier today.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, fading KC was the easiest call in the book.
It didn't look good for a good portion of Game 3. There was a lot of doubt in my mind after just the horrible exchange in the bot lane, and Reckless was like 50 CS up, and it was looking pretty grim. I'll tell you that. I don't know if you caught Game 3, but
yeah, I don't know. I think that was the one where they decided to fight 2v2 with Sivir level 1.
Yes,
Sivir is a champion level 1.
It was Sivir and Rakan versus Nautilus and Misfortune.
Yeah, I'm not sure why they thought that was a thing to do, but whatever.
Yeah, and then they tried to do a 3v3 later. They didn't realize that Xin was there, and then they just got absolutely brutalized. So it looked bad, but then hey, Sivir gets a pentakill, gets an Infinity Edge, and she just throws her W all over you. So I've played a little Sivir with the rework, and she feels fantastic at low elo. So.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Well, hey, I don't know. Do you want to talk anything about the LPL LCK? Do you have anything to add on any of these games? I've kind of run through it, and we're ready to hop right into the Western leagues. But if you have any thoughts on this, feel free. I mean, Bovada saved you some money the other day on Weibo.
They really did. They really did. I'm telling you. Listen, JDG is gonna fail, and I'm gonna be there to profit. when it happens. I will. I promise. It might not be until spring of 2023, but I'll be there to profit when it happens. Trust me. But yeah, no, I actually think the slate looks pretty good. Should be some interesting games. Notably, I think the DRX Nongshim has some potential, and then I think BLG OMG has some potential. So it should be a pretty interesting slate.
Yeah, I feel like most people are going to think the BLG OMG has a lot of potential. I think the one series that's going to go, I think, more overlooked than it should, given the LPL slate that we have. I think Gen G can come out and absolutely just destroy scores, just much in the same way that we saw T1 do it last night. Same type of situation. You don't have to put up crazy scores. All you have to do is sweep. A lot of these other series either A, look like 2-1 series where maybe a team gets beat pretty easily and doesn't score a lot of points, or B, it's just super expensive like top, and you're either playing a support captain or you're picking a dog, and if all of the favorites end up winning and that BLG OMG series goes 2-1, you could look at Gen G with like a 34 kill sweep, but like 80% kill participation, and maybe they pop off and do a 25. Look, Josh, tell me, you're a vengeful guy, I feel like. If you were Gen G and Damwon had been smurfing all over you for 2 years, now you're just so much better than Damwon, and this game means nothing. Wouldn't you just like kick the shit out of them when they're sick? I would. That's what I would do. And I think,
no, I agree. I think that's how you do it. You go out, you have some fun with it, but you definitely take. I don't think anyone at that level is above kicking a man when they're down. So.
Yeah, and Showmaker's sick. Kellen's not playing. Possibly it could be Bible. Gen G took their fair share of beatings when they were sick, so I think that they're ready to dish it out. And I'm full steam ahead on Gen G.
I'm always in for it. I'm always in for Chovy.
Absolutely. So let's hop over into the LEC. I have no idea who's playing. Just looking at this for really the first time. We start off with Misfits minus 185 against Astralis. Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It feels weird because both teams beat Rogue last week, right? Strauss has been kind of inconsistent, but showed some good upside team. Same could be said about Misfits, though. Of late, they've looked a little bit better, I think. Line's probably reasonable, I would assume, but don't really have any initial takeaways from that line. It doesn't scream anything at me either way, right off the bat.
Yeah, you take a look at this Astralis team, and you just don't necessarily feel like they're very good, right? Like it's Cove, it's Dayor, who was, for all intents and purposes, in the spring like a Vex one trick, and Vex is not a champion that you can play, despite the fact that he's really tried to, but he's had some good performances. They beat Misfits the first time they played. They have a win over XL. They have a win over Rogue. They have a couple quality wins here. They weren't able to beat G2, but they were damn close. Whereas this Misfits team is just, they have their carries and they live and die by Vithio and they live and die by Neon. And, when those guys are going, everybody else is going too. I think the addition of Zanzara really does help this team. I thought it was disgusting the other day. What did Schlagen play in the playoffs? He played like Lee Sin every day or every game, right? I think.
Oh, he did. Yeah, he played one. Was it like Wukong or? I don't know. He was definitely like one tricking. I can't recall off the top of my head.
And they just got absolutely stomped. That was a series I won a fair amount of money off of too. I bet all the overs there. I bet Vitality minus 1.5. I didn't pull it on the 2.5, but I should have. Misfits looked terrible. Schlatten looked terrible. I don't think we're going to see him back in the LEC anytime soon. But Zanzara just kind of fits this meta, like Poppy, Trundle, and what are you going to and Skarner? Like, what are you going to do? Are you going to ban those three champions? I mean, you can, but it just gives so many other, like, there are so many champions that you need to ban from Misfits that banning like Zanzara's champions just seems kind of silly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are you going to do? Hand Vithio like a LeBlanc? Are you going to hand him an Akali? And teams have decided to do that, but it just never seems to go well for them.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume that the most of the strategy coming in is to just try and ban out the strong bottom lane, try and make him a little bit uncomfortable. If you can get Neon a little bit uncomfortable in lane, I think he's shown that people can find a couple of advantages on him. VTO, I think it's really tough to ban him out unless he doesn't pick in the first stage. If he doesn't pick in the first stage, you can definitely do some things. Ban out the Zoes, the Silas, the Akali type stuff, and just try and. I mean, the idea would be if I was playing this team, I would try to get VTO to play a control mage because I think that's your best shot. I wouldn't even hate a team just coming with that approach, being like, "We'll give you the OP bottom lane, so you're just not going to beat us in mid." Especially with this Dayor matchup, I'm not sure how he can really stand up, but yeah, I would definitely that'd be my approach. But to the point, I don't really think you can because I think you have to ban the Trundle from Zanzara. He's shown such a proficiency on that champ, and it's very good in the meta right now. And so then you're down to two other bans, and you're probably just going with a Zeri ban or something of that nature. So it is a bit odd. You kind of just got to pray VTO doesn't pick in that first stage.
Yeah, and this series, I mean, these lines, I don't know if I want pre-bet on any of these lines. I feel like this is a spot where you can, if you feel like Astralis has a better draft, you can kind of wait until the beginning, maybe fire there, or maybe hope that there's like an insignificant first blood, and they're on the wrong side of it. Like a coin flip that has no impact on the game. Obviously it does. There's gold that exchanges hands, but an early first blood will tilt the odds, live betting odds, probably more than it actually does in the game state. So sometimes you can get some really good lines when that type of thing happens. I think Misfits win this. I know that they're motivated. I know some people think they're not motivated and they're defeated, but I think that they win this. What a fucking idiot that guy is. Oh, man. Oh, you know what? Holy shit. This is a good point. I mean, I don't know. Like, Zanzara doesn't feel like a Pantheon player to me. He feels like a guy that wants to play Pantheon, but he's not a carry jungler. And I think you kind of want Pantheon to carry at least a part of the game. So,
yeah, I mean, he does gank. So from that respect, at least Pantheon is good on ganks, but yeah, it doesn't seem like his style of champion to me.
All right, going into the next one, Vitality, big favorites, minus 750, BDS plus 450. Is this just a spot where I don't know, you have to bet BDS and hope that they give you your money back?
Yeah, I think so. We've seen BDS punch up. They didn't end up pulling off the upset of G2, and we were all over that last week. But they showed the ability to punch up, and that was a game they should have won. I think was that the game did they get backdoored in that one? No, okay. I'm getting my game swapped up, but yeah, I mean that was a game I think they were up, and then they just lost the fight in the mid game, and it fell out of their hands. But I think we've seen them be able to punch up a little bit. We've seen Vitality. We talk about it all the time. We haven't seen them put it together. Last week they had a really good 2-0 against G2 and Excel, two very good teams that you want to see them being able to compete with. And it does look like they're starting to finally kind of figure out their identity a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But this team has shown a very low floor, so I'm down with betting a plus 450 against them for sure.
Yeah, and it looks so. Everybody that's going to make the playoffs has made the playoffs. Or no, that's just in the green. That's yellow. BDS is out. So I mean, Vitality sits pretty comfortable with where they're at, 8-5. They've been playing really well, but like you said, this is a team that a lot like OMG. Just feels like that they fall apart when you start to buy into them, and I think a lot of people are buying into them. I've seen them played in cash when I wouldn't play them in cash, but tomorrow we'll probably see them in cash. Talk about two teams heading in different trajectories. We've got a Fnatic team as a minus 205, and there's plenty of people that will tell you that this Fnatic team is better than what they look, but when it comes right down to it, you are who you are. And I'm watching this Fnatic team, and they fucking suck. I mean, in context of who they are. Whereas this SK team they look a lot better than I thought. I look up and down this SK roster, and I don't think that these guys are supposed to be very good. but somehow they're putting it together. Maybe they're better than I'm giving them credit for. I like SK here. I like it at plus 156, and I could be wrong that Fnatic could be coming back, but talk me off the ledge, save me some money.
I mean, the problem with SK is like you said, it's like, I mean, if we would have seen SK versus Fnatic at these odds before the season, we'd be like, hell to the no. There's no shot in a world I'm swinging here, and so that's just my hesitancy. Is like, you have to take the nameplates off, and it's just hard for me to do that. To take a wholly, only bias, as it says in my background. It's really hard to get rid of the bias here that I have there, but it's just tough because I would like better odds than plus 156, but I understand why they're close because, like you said, they're kind of trending the wrong or in different directions right now. So I don't know. I think I'd probably stay away because I want more than plus 156. But I wouldn't blame you at all for hopping on it. I think it's probably the right side to be on here, given what Fnatic has shown us. It's just been pretty miserable from Fnatic.
You look at who they've beaten. They're 1-0 against Astralis. They have notable wins against G2 and Rogue, but both of those teams have looked fallible. And then their only other wins are against BDS and SK. It's not like this is the team that was there. They still do have some big names, but Wonder hasn't looked good consistently for a long time. Hilly's looked questionable. Humanoid does some of the dumbest shit, and you try and defend the guy, but then he just keeps doing it. And then you've got Razor, who hasn't looked good since he played on Misfits, and maybe he needs to go back to Misfits. That's where he belongs. But he's not playing for Misfits this week. He's going to play for Fnatic. I don't know. Look, I'm not laying the extra juice. I'm not putting 2 units on Fnatic. If I'm not betting SK, I'm just moving it along, and I'm not playing this game at all.
Yep. I'm down for that all the way.
Now, look, we have 2 absolute bangers afterwards. We've got G2 and XL. XL had started off this season looking fantastic. We bought in. They had started to carry over and figure out stuff that they were having a problem with in spring. They had that great early game throughout the entire year, but they put it together with some fantastic team fighting, playing to their win conditions, fighting around objectives correctly, hitting flanks, Finn regaining his rogue form and not playing like he was on CLG. And this XL team has had a couple stumbles, though. They struggle to become that elite team that can consistently do that week in and week out against other good teams. And then you have G2. The absolute have to take the nameplate off. This G2 team has looked like 2 different teams within this one singular split. Looked like fantastic, best team in the world, maybe in the West. Let's say the best team in the West coming out of MSI, dominating the early part of summer, and then just absolutely falling apart. Getting a couple wins since then, but at minus 155 against this XL team is. I don't know, man. I think XL plus 120 is where I want to go. I think they were plus 180 the last time they played, but they did lose if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I already put in 2 units on XL here. I think that's definitely the correct side for me. G2 is just another. I mean, this league is just littered with teams that have just been hyper inconsistent. The one thing I will say is, we were talking about Pantheon earlier. Pantheon's definitely a Yankos champion. So, if they get something like a Pantheon Taliyah, G2 is a team that could absolutely destroy with that kind of combo. We've seen Taliyah, obviously, I think they talked about on the LEC. It's, a very dominant champion, but we just saw G2 get absolutely ran over with Taliyah by Vitality. So, that's, my concern there is really just that maybe the meta is a little bit more in G2's favor with them having a little bit more flexibility to do some interesting things. But I think XL has shown us enough, and I think specifically your boy Marcoon has shown us enough to be able to sort of match and kind of handle Yankos in the jungle.
I was gonna say, look, you might say that Yankos is a Pantheon type of guy, but I feel like Marcoon would be a Pantheon type of guy. Now, doesn't really have any Pantheon in his
Looks
history.
Like one game there,
but I mean, it was a win.
Yep.
6-2-8, can't go wrong there. But
I
mean, Lee Sin, Jarvan, Hakarim, Graves, Xin Zhao, Olaf. This is these are all in the family of Pantheon.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, man, I wish we had a place that we could bet on whether or not champions could be there. But maybe that dude from Worlds last year from the Beyond Gaming ruined that, with his little texting telling people to get some nudes.
Yeah.
So we're in agreement here. Maybe you bet XL, or maybe you just wait for the draft. I think that I can't hate that either. If you want to live bet this, I think that's absolutely a way to go when the odds are this close. But the thing about that is that as much as some people try and think that they know, like, hey, this is how it's going to go. This champion is just overpowered. This combination of champions is overpowered. Teams figure it out, and you might think that this is like a absolute top shelf draft, but somebody might just do something wrong, and it's always risky to go there too. Riskier than I think some people make it out to be. But I don't know. I think I'm back in Excel and probably load up if I like the draft even more.
Yep. I'm totally in on that.
Rogue versus Mad Lions. Now, this has always, to me, been a matchup. I don't think these teams like each other. And I know that these teams are a lot different than the Rogue Mad Lions teams that we've seen in the past. A lot of the components of Rogue are still there. A handful of the Mad Lions are still there. But it's always felt like the underdog has come into this matchup and won this matchup. Whether it was Mad Lions as the underdog or whether it's been Rogue as the underdog. And Rogue comes in as the underdog, but they're reeling. They haven't looked good. Malrang's had a couple bad games. And, if every part of I don't think that there's a dominant enough force on Rogue that if one of the guys is having a really, really bad game, the rest of them kind of crumble and fall apart. They've always actually felt like a team that has to work together and be in complete synergy, or their game plans, the way that they put together plays, cross map, all of those things start to fall apart. And they have just never, ever, ever been a good team from behind. This Mad Lions team, they look legit. They look for real. Adding Niski has made a world of difference. And you have multiple guys that can be carries on this team. You have multiple guys that seem to be okay relinquishing the carry to somebody else. So it could be Niski. It could be Aloya. It could be Unforgiven. And they're all okay with that. They're all okay with winning. I think I'm back in the Mad Lions, despite the fact that I tried to say that the underdogs tend to win this matchup.
Yeah, I think Mad Lions is the correct spot to be on pre-match here if you're going to be betting it there. I personally think that if I want to bet this game, I actually want to take an angle of, kind of anticipating, and hopefully it plays out this way. But we've seen Mad Lions just be absolutely dominant in the early game, and we know that they can do that. But we've also seen Rogue have a lot of great late games, and that's reflected in their early game and mid to late ratings, respectively. Mad Lions lead the league in the early game rating. Rogue's in third. Mid to late, Rogue lead the league. Mad Lions is fourth. So I think the angle I would look to take is like a live bet. If maybe, a lot of times this happens really recently, especially if the favorite gets that first blood, and maybe like a first Drake, their odds will drop from this minus 138 number all the way down to like minus 250, and Rogue will drop from plus 108 to plus 2 something, and that's a spot where I'd probably be looking to get in on Rogue there. But I think if you're going to bet it pre-match, I think Mad's the side to be on. Like you said, they've kind of just shown a lot more, and especially with Niski's play style, it's really helped his team out. And I think what you mentioned about Rogue is totally correct. I think that removing Hans Sama for comp kind of took away a spot where you mentioned where like we need this one guy that we always know is going to be able to bring us back, and I think Comp's a fine player, but I feel like, he's just he's kind of a product of a situation, if that makes sense. You don't really, at least me, I don't expect Comp coming into games like hard carry Rogue to a victory. I don't, whereas Hans Sama, you could see him come in with a Draven and just absolutely stomp and get 10 kills. You know what I mean? So that's just, and maybe that's my bias, but
but it feels like maybe Hans Sama was part of the problem. When you think back and you look at Hans Sama playing this year, on Team Liquid, and you're like, wow, this guy's not that good. Maybe
That's true.
he single-handedly
Well, I
lost that
think
series against Mad Lions when last spring.
Yeah,
Not this
and I think
last
that's
spring,
what
the
they
spring before that.
traded. They traded for someone more steady as opposed to the volatility. But sometimes on a team like this, where the rest of your like Odo Omni, he's solid, right?
Mhm.
Like you said, Larson, he's solid. But you kind of, if you just have a team of a bunch of solid guys, you kind of a ceiling to your performance, in my opinion, where you don't have that guy that can come in and take over. And sometimes you just need that kind of factor on your team. So it's a little bit tough. So I'm definitely echoing your sentiments there, and think that maybe that's something that they've missed in those areas where they get behind and can't find a way back in.
Yeah, and another big part of Rogue and their early success with Malron was that he did a lot of things unconventionally, and there's been a lot of talk on the LCS broadcast about unconventional jungle paths and what that can do to a team trying to track that jungler. Big reason that Pride Stalker's not on Golden Guardians anymore, or at least playing. He'll probably never play again for them. But teams have kind of figured him out, or at least understand him a little bit more. So he's not able to take them by surprise. He's not in positions where they can completely take advantage of teams as frequently as he was in spring. So that's been part of the reason I think that Rogue has not had that overwhelming success. But at times it's still there, and obviously it's reflected in those wins. The other thing that comes to live betting, specifically in this series and also in the other ones, is if a team drafts like a Kalista or like a Lucian Nami, and they just don't get that advantage, or they lose a couple of the dragons really early in the game, and they haven't like asserted that dominance. It's no different than when you saw like Caitlyn Lux in spring. Like, go ahead and bet the other team, because the other team more than likely outscales, and that's just how you're drafting. So that's another thought too. But that being said, like if Rogue drafts like a Kalista, which they like to do, and they like lose an early exchange or don't get the dragon, I think they're absolutely doomed. More so than other teams.
Yep, totally in there.
All right, well, let's take a look at the LCS. Take a little bit of a peek into Saturday. Try and get a little bit of this live action. We've got Golden Guardians against 100 Thieves. Golden Guardians have made a couple changes to the starting roster. We've got Leader coming up. We got Prismal plus 200. Look, I'm gonna bet Golden Guardians here. It feels wrong, but plus 200. That kind of X factor. 100 Thieves have looked flat sometimes, and they tend to look flat. They're not one of those teams that just doesn't maintain consistency. They're very streaky, and they looked really good coming into this week. And so maybe this is a letdown spot. Maybe they rest a little bit. Maybe they get a little full of themselves. We just watched 100 Thieves Academy lose to an amateur team. 100 Thieves could lose to basically what is an academy team here.
Wait, they lost that series after being up 1-0?
Yeah, they got smashed. They took out pocket picks. Like, so
I actually turned it off after the first game because I was like, this is just not even fun.
No. So what they did was they played like Karthus jungle, Rumble mid.
Oh my Lanta.
Then they just played their pocket picks. Fiora top. And they won both game 2 and 3.
Wow.
So
nice. Yeah. Yeah, I'm totally with you. I think the mid lane change. It just feels like to me that Golden Guardians is sort of changing for the sake of changing, which I'm not usually a fan of. Because like again, like if I was looking at this roster, especially with them just bringing up, didn't they just change their jungler last week, right? Like,
yeah,
I'm not making that up. So they gave him 2 games with him, and now they're changing. It just feels a bit odd to me because like. I don't think you're looking at this team and saying, "Hey, Stixay and a Blazer were the problem." Like, I think they were both fine, like for what we expected them. Right? They were doing what we expect, probably around the middle of the pack, a little bit below average compared to the league, sure. And it just feels a bit odd to be changing that. Obviously, we know Leader does bring that volatility a lot of the times.
It's like a bad version of Vetheo.
Yeah, exactly. he brings the volatility, so maybe they're trying to go with that strategy of just, hey, we got to take a swing here, and I'm okay with that. But um, just kind of interesting. I think it's totally fine to bet it in that spot. Leader. I know you're very familiar with his work. He can pull some crazy stuff out of his hat. So
Well, and
um,
especially like when Silas is as powerful it is as it is, and it's used as a flex pick. Like, you look at Vithio's game log, and for whatever reason, he's not super successful on Silas. You'd think that like Silas really fits into his game style, but I think that Silas at times can be um, more of a supportive player, even in an assassin meta. But Leader has just historically been a ridiculous Silas. I mean, dating back for years. I wouldn't be surprised if they just target ban him though. Like personally, I would ban Akali, Silas, and then whatever power pick you want to not give them. And just like you're doing with Vithio, play a control mage, play in the Azir. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I would do the same, and that's what we saw happen to Leader when he was in the LEC, and then now he's no longer there. He went back to the regional leagues and went to academy. I think that's the problem with sort of being a one-dimensional, in a sense, player. So we'll see, but yeah, I think it's definitely I'm fine with taking that shot here on them at plus 200.
Evil Geniuses plays TSM. Now, TSM had some sparks of life, putting Solo into the top lane, but this is EG. I mean, if you're betting TSM here, you're just betting it because you're betting it out of rule, plus 300. EG have looked significantly better than anybody else in the LCS, at least on a consistent basis. While they've dropped some games here and there, and most recently to 100 Thieves, I think that they would be a huge betting favorite, especially in a best of 5, and they will be. And I don't expect them to lose. This is a best of 1. If this was a best of 3, I'm not betting TSM, but I think you can take a stab there. But look, it's a weird road that you walk in the LCS, because it is certainly a league of haves and have-nots, and when the haves are playing the have-nots, you're betting a lot of these big lines and hoping that one of them hits. And that's really just to break even, right? Like, you need almost 2 of them to hit, and you need to be on the correct 2 to turn a profit. I'm not crazy about betting TSM here, but I think it's a TSM or pass type of situation.
Yeah, I will say the one positive I see with betting TSM here is we sort of saw last week EG sort of it looked like, to me at least, that they were experimenting a little bit, especially in that the game against FlyQuest. Like, they played Kalista. If you were telling me Danny's playing Kalista, I would be like, in where? Like, it just doesn't seem at all their style. And I think they also play the Kaisa against the 100T the week prior. So it seems like they're like flirting with experimenting, since they're so secured in their playoff position. So given that backdrop, I'm especially a little bit more okay with the TSM bet here at plus 300. But yeah, I mean, if you stack these teams up on paper, it's going to be these odds are pretty good.
Yeah, I think a sharp spot to go to. Like, anything more than a minus 8.5, I'm probably not in on, and we don't even have minus 8.5. So, look, I think that's a fine spot. That might be where I back 100 Thieves.
I like
and just
that.
hope that happens. So,
yep, I like that.
Team Liquid versus FlyQuest. FlyQuest plus 163. I mean, this is just a team that, for me, these two teams are so similar. Like, Team Liquid looks like this team that should be a powerhouse, a juggernaut. You've got Whippo. You got Santorin, who doesn't need to be a carry. You got Bjergsen. You've got Hans Sama. But, man, like, this team, it just feels like vanilla ice cream, man. Like, it's good. I like vanilla ice cream, but I'm not going to go get vanilla ice cream. I want some, like, chocolate chips or some cookie dough or some, like, cake batter or some chocolate, like, fudge. I just don't want just vanilla, and Team Liquid feels like vanilla. That being said, FlyQuest is like French vanilla to me, because Takuli's French, and again, just a team of bland guys. And FlyQuest is trying to be good and Team Liquid's trying to pretend to be good. I don't know. I'll let you take the lead on this one.
Well, I'm laughing because the Team Liquid being vanilla ice cream is kind of funny because you do have Bwipo playing like Olaf top and all this kind of stuff, and then you got Bjergsen with this Zillion mid and stuff like that. So it's kind of funny that you say that.
I just meant from like a personality standpoint.
No, I agree.
Like Bwipo is probably Bwipo not so much, but but maybe that's just like how we envision Bwipo. Like when Bwipo talks, he's not like this. I mean, I think he's eccentric in a different way, but still like in a very vanilla way. Like you wouldn't think like the best jungler in the LCS who plays top lane would just I don't know, carry himself that way. I guess it's a good thing, but we need Bwipo in the jungle.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm happy with the FlyQuest bet here at plus 163. I think they've shown enough, and I think frankly, Team Liquid has been in poor enough form really to justify this. They've sort of been a like Fnatic light, like the LCS version, where you can. The problem with the LCS is like it's so much less talented than the LEC, where you can be bad as a good team and still be fine in the standings and stuff. But I think they've had a similar level of underperformance for me based on what I expected. A lot of people thought I think they were the betting favorites to win the split. And yeah, they just haven't really shown me that. So I'm happy with taking a stab at FlyQuest.
Well, and for what it's worth, they're locked in the playoffs, right? I mean, 8 teams out of the 10 make it into the playoffs. So, they're just the only teams that are battling are Golden Guardians, TSM, Immortals, and Dignitas. The fact that a 2-11 and a 3-10 team are not eliminated with only 5 games to go is just absolutely absurd. But this Team Liquid team, I guess they could still theoretically get into like one of the top 2 seeds, but they would need this game. And have they? I don't know. Like 3 teams make it to Worlds. I would not be surprised if this Team Liquid team doesn't make it to Worlds.
And I think they could definitely find themselves on the outside looking in if they continue up this sort of poor form they've been in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think EG and 100 Thieves are going to make it. I can see 100 Thieves kind of falling out, just running cold and not making it. But I think Cloud9 is the other team. There's going to be a team that's left out, amongst this quartet, EG, 100 Thieves, Cloud9, and Team Liquid. And maybe 2 of them, FlyQuest and CLG are right there. And, despite what Gelati thinks, this CLG team is, you got to believe in them, man. You just have to. They find a way to win. Winners win.
That's true. Yeah, I think that 3rd spot is actually going to be reasonably hotly contested here.
Speaking of Immortals and Dignitas, battling it out for 2 and 3 wins, Immortals come into this game in a really unfamiliar situation, minus 145. Who in their right mind would bet on Immortals at minus 145 against anybody in a major region? And I'm not saying that I think Dignitas deserves to be the favorite here, because quite frankly, if Dignitas was minus 145, I wouldn't want to bet on them either. This is one of those situations. There are sometimes teams that I think, regardless of where they fall in the talent spectrum, whether they're good or bad, you bet on them when they're dogs, and when they're favorites, you fade them, because there are teams that can beat anybody and there are teams that can lose to anybody. But that's not what Immortals and Dignitas are. These are teams that can't really beat anybody, but they're playing each other. So one team has to win, and this has 2 different types of games written all over it. This has a great game for DFS because neither team ends. This has a terrible game for DFS because neither team fight. And when they do team fight, one dude dies and then they depart and whatever happens. How do you see this playing out? Immortals have been playing better, and Dignitas are running some weird dudes in different lineups.
I do think if you're betting, it's Immortals or bust here. I'm not sure if minus 145, it's definitely not something that gets me excited. I'll probably bet it just because I do think they're a better team. I'm kind of buying into the narrative of they finally have time together and they're looking better. we saw them. They played EG really tight. They had a tough week last week. They played EG and 100 Thieves, and I didn't think they looked bad in either game. They had chances to win both. In fact, they should have beaten, or you could argue that they should have beaten 100 Thieves. They were ahead almost the whole game. They just got out macroed, and that's something you would expect for a top tier team against a bottom tier team. Is like, they were winning in lanes, but they were losing out in simple things like last hitting minions and getting out macroed, like out rotated and things like that. Then they lost one team fight and the game just ended, which is really odd. But I think they've shown enough for me to want to back them in this spot compared to Dignitas, who just kind of look like they're drawing totally dead to me.
Mm-hmm.
They had a fiesta last week against CLG, but they never really had a chance in that game. It didn't look like to me. And there's like nothing that gets me excited about their roster at all. So I don't know. I definitely agree with you on your sentiment though, from a DFS perspective, that this game's either a fiesta it's literally, you can look at two antithetical games from last week. It's either a fiesta like Dignitas had with CLG, or it's the Immortals versus 100 Thieves that ended 7-6. I think it's totally one or the other.
And I mean, how good do you run to have stacked up this Immortals team in best ball, and then we get to week 7 and you're playing Dignitas and Golden Guardians? I don't think that you could have asked for a better situation to try and sneak into the cash right there.
Listen, schedule analysis. If you've watched any streams about the Underdog Best Ball tournament, you've heard all about week 17 correlation. All right. So you can't knock a man for doing some schedule analysis further out,
Look, I don't do that. My theory, at least on best ball, and I made the playoffs in every single one of the entries that I had this season, except for one. I lost a tiebreaker. I did win a tiebreaker though, so that's okay. Look, I just try and get there, man. You just try and get to the playoffs, and at least in a best of 4 or like the top 4 advance, like you just try and get there. If you can win that like week 7 matchup like this, then you're in there, and if you win the next one, you're profitable. But there are just a couple people that run really good. I happen to be one of those, or maybe I'm really good. You tend to run really good because you make the playoffs a lot. And there was somebody who used to run really good, and his reign ended. But I of course talk about the esports plug, John, who had one of the there were several this split winless winless games or winless seasons. There were 2 or 3 teams that maybe had like 2 or less wins. Just even with the median score, man, there were some bad teams. And one of the things is in the LCS, anybody that took a large portion of Dignitas players, it hasn't looked well for them. Somehow the Immortals players, like myself, I have Immortals in a couple. Somehow we've made it through. Somehow
Immortals is the king of getting you enough points in losses to not kill you,
despite the fact that they have 2 games where they didn't get any kills.
Exactly.
So that doesn't make any sense. But we got CLG versus Cloud9. Cloud9 have looked fantastic, but I still think that they look sloppy at times. There are, exploitable parts of this team, but I don't know, maybe that they've prepared for this, because I think that the game plan that teams are trying to employ when playing Cloud9 is no different than what it was in spring when teams started taking advantage of them then, was basically just camp the top lane, try and get Fudge behind, just like they did with Summit, and hope that they can win that way. However, last week, despite that game plan working out the way I think that you would want it to, both Team Liquid and FlyQuest were unable to come out victorious. And I don't know if CLG is going to be able to do that, and I don't feel like CLG is going to have that type of game plan.
Yeah, it's not often I want to lay -200, but I would consider it here. I'll definitely be interested in the kill spread. The problem with Cloud9 is they don't, at least it doesn't seem like off the top of my head, that they tend to run it up too awful much in wins. So I would probably need a lower kill spread there. I guess I can pull it up and see what they usually do in wins.
Well, I don't think the kill spread's up. I don't think that maybe it is. There's 2. Hang on, let's take a look here. So they don't have an over-under on it yet, or they don't have a kill spread. Let's see. 5.5. I mean, so that's
so that's about what I was thinking. And so their average is, let's see, 57 divided by 8. Their average spread in wins is 7.1. So I'm interested in that. I think.
Yeah. I think the only thing that I foresee, the way I think that CLG plays Cloud9, or the way that they should, is instead of trying to do that to fudge, do it the opposite way. Try and get your bot lane ahead, and that is typically the way that I think Contracts tries to play, is either getting Palafox ahead or going through the bot lane and getting Luger ahead, not so much going through the top lane and getting Dokla. I think that they're very comfortable allowing him to play weak side or play on an island and just do what he's going to do and scale up. And so that's going to be very different than what we've seen other teams and the way that they've tried to attack Cloud9. I think that Palafox, if he gets the right kind of champion and if he plays the matchup right, has really kind of risen to the occasion. And we've seen something that we didn't see from him in spring. And we've seen something that we didn't see from him on FlyQuest. Like, I think what we've seen from Palafox really is starting for him to blossom into the player that you kind of thought he was going to be when he was on Cloud9 Academy, and just absolutely smurfing Academy and having these carry games, when they need him to, or scaling when they need him to. I don't know. I think at this point, I feel like Luger's a little bit overrated, specifically by people within my bubble. I'm one of those people. But Contracts has stepped up, Palafox has stepped up, and this team can certainly beat Cloud9. And I think if they employ that game plan and get a good gank and get that first blood through the bottom lane, I think that they can do that.
Yeah, no, I'm here for it. That's why I think if you're betting money line, I don't think you would want to lay that minus 200. Just like I said, in best of one, CLG's shown enough. But I think if you're going to bet C9, I think the way to do it is that kill spread, that minus 5.5 is totally fine with me. Even maybe going up to the minus 6.5, you can probably get so if it's minus 115, probably just like plus 110 or something. So I would consider something like that if I'm going to betting Cloud9 here. But I don't hate betting either side of this. And probably I don't hate playing either side in DFS either.
Yeah, I think if you're going to bet it, you can bet the minus 200, but I also think you compare it with something like Golden Guardians or with like 100 Thieves against Golden Guardians, and just get kind of even money. I know that we're supposed to be talking sharp methods of betting, and parlays inherently aren't always the sharpest or most EV. But look, I can bet $100 here and win 105, or I can try and put out $500 to win 200. It just comes down to a comfort thing sometimes for people. And look, most people that are watching this are not professional gamblers. In fact, I don't think anybody is. So while some people are degenerate gamblers, we're looking for action. We're looking for places that we can make money in some spots. And I think that if you can find these, 2 games that you like that are reasonable favorites, this is also a way to absolutely, take advantage of that and get just even money aside from betting like spreads.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. Well, I think that kind of wraps it up. I mean, I don't think that there's been any lines released for the LFL. But we've got, let me see, what do we got for playoffs? No LFL lines dropped out. So the only line that I'm going to give people to go attack is I think Zero Tenacity takes a game minus 150 against Rogue. VZZ is the guy. So they probably lose that series 3-1, but go ahead and bet that. So that's all I got. Check out my Twitter handle, my bio. There's a link for Clout Fantasy. We'll talk a little bit more about that. We match a $100 deposit. Hopefully, Spell doesn't mush me again on my sponsorship. All proceeds go towards, helping the production on this show, paying for the background and nice videos that you guys see. Josh, do you have anything else that you want to plug, say, or get off your chest?
Only thing I got for you is we're getting about to the time where we get back to fading LDLC, and that starts in round 1 of the LFL playoffs, when they face off with the greatest team to ever grace the LFL, BDS Academy. undefeated streak currently, taking it into the playoffs, going to run over LDLC on their way to a European Masters Championship. I've heard rumors around the street that Reckless being eliminated in round 1 of the playoffs has reinvigorated some players, and they're ready to go take the title. So, it's just a rumor. Rumors can be wrong. Ask my boy Wooloo about that if you haven't heard. But yeah, I'm gonna go with that. That's gonna be my pick. I'll take a stand on in case I'm not back on before that happens.
Well, look, let me tell you something. BDS Academy probably does want to avenge the fact that they were the only LFL team that got eliminated in groups. So the perfect way to do that would be to win summer, or at least just like get out of groups. That's the first step that they should focus on. So they'll have the opportunity. Hopefully, they don't get relegated to play-ins, but I think that they would dominate there. So we'll see. We'll see who they're grouped with. I don't, quite frankly, in the other leagues, I don't think that there's the same type of strength. Heretics and Giants seem okay. JDXL got rid of their mid laner, so they've fallen apart. So you're seeing a weaker X7 team or a team in Dusty from the NLC that I'm just not thrilled with. We saw how good the Unicorns of Love are. Like this is LFL will repeat. It's going to be Vitality, BDSA, or LDLC. I don't think Gameward makes it. I think that they lose to Vitality, they get through the play-ins, and they end up with a tougher draw as a result. So we'll talk a little bit more about EU Masters coming up. We've got one more week of slates. Special guest with his LED hoop will be here next Tuesday. But I'm going to hit the music. Josh, stick around, and then we will see you guys tomorrow.